McLaren have had yet another dominant outing in Monza, and while it didn't end up with a 1-2 finish, the fact that they are just 8 points behind Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship and 62 with Norris behind Verstappen has brought some fears in the camp of the Milton Keynes squad. Helmut Marko has resorted to the investigation claims, stating that the front wing of their competitors needs to be properly checked by the FIA. But after the latest comments from Verstappen and Horner, is it really the case for the droppage of performance? And if not, are Red Bull basically clutching to their last straws to prevent their downfall? It goes without saying that McLaren's dominance in the past couple of races has come as quite a surprise to many, and the only reason why they aren't leading the Constructors' Championship and aren't closer behind Verstappen in the drivers' category is the poor strategy and the poor start of the first 5 races. But once Miami came, everything changed for the Woking-based squad, as they've scored a podium on every single race and have won the events in Miami, Hungary and Zandvoort. They were also very close to winning Monza had it not been for the superb tyre perseverance from Leclerc, but nevertheless they still managed to take a massive chunk out of Red Bull's lead in the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship. This isn't something that has been taken for granted by senior figures in the Austrian team, starting with Helmut Marko, who went on to say that the front wing of McLaren and Mercedes are something that needs to be investigated thoroughly by the FIA. Contrary to him, Verstappen and Horner believe that there is a lot of work to be done within their camp, but nevertheless Red Bull won't sit still until the flexing of certain elements from these front wings are tested and proclaimed legal by the FIA. This is a process that has been done in the past, and the governing body has stated loud and clear that there is nothing illegal with any car on the grid, but it does seem like from certain angles, when the MCL38 and the W15 are attacking the curbs, the front wings are looking quite flexible, which isn't the case with Red Bull. Be that as it may, Marko's statement has opened up some drama in the sport, and when talking about the front wings of their competitors, the veteran Austrian has connected to a comment that Christian Horner made earlier in the season, as the 50-year-old Brit said, "I think it's more where have the others found performance rather than where we lost it. I think the front wing is a key area where others have found some performance. The way the front wings are being used are quite different. If you look at the front wing angle of McLaren and Mercedes, they are very, very different to the rest of the grid." Furthermore, Helmut Marko has also confirmed about the plans of Red Bull regarding the front wing of McLaren, as the veteran Austrian added, "The front wing of McLaren and Mercedes must be analysed." However, Marko hasn't shied away from admitting that the situation in his own team could have been a lot better had Newey been a part of things, even though it's obvious that one man cannot make such a great difference in the downfall of the team. Newey has pointed towards some of the primary issues of the car revolving around the cooling before his departure, and ever since he announced that he won't be part of the team from 2025 onwards, the downfall started straight away. It may be a coincidence, or it may just be part of the destiny of Red Bull, but when talking about it, Marko said, "Newey is no longer fully involved in developing the car. It's true that his experience and knowledge could certainly have helped in this situation. It's true that the added performance without any flaws has made the MCL38 a bit more challenging to understand for the rest of the grid, because even for a team like Red Bull, who managed to win 21 out of 22 events, adding performance in 2024 has turned out to be extremely hard, as they might have reached a certain threshold of their car that they can't overturn in the next couple of months. Verstappen has called towards more improvements in the following period, but it does seem like with his negativity, which has gone to the extent of not winning a single race until the remainder of the season due to the lack of competitiveness, the team is in a massive problem that might be more around the nature of their car rather than the front wing of McLaren and Mercedes." Elaborating on the RB20, Verstappen said that the team somehow managed to build a monster out of the 2023 version of the car, which is something that they have to work to the extent of practically building a new car. The Monza GP, which was supposed to suit the less draggy RB20 and not the MCL38 that has struggled with drag all throughout the season, has turned out exactly how Red Bull didn't expect it. So the response from the 3-time world champion was revolved around the departure of Adrian Newey and its influence over the downfall of the team. When talking about this to a greater extent, Verstappen said, "I've always said that I would have liked for Adrian to stay. always, but it's not about that now, because last year we had a great car, which was the most dominant car ever, and we basically turned it into a monster. So we have to turn it around. It doesn't matter how many weeks it will take, we just have to keep pushing and work flat out. There is no excuse. The response from Horner hasn't been much better either, as the 50-year-old hasn't been very positive about the development of the car in the past couple of months. And when talking about the RB20 in general, after the Zandvoort data was collected and analysed, Horner went on to say, "We ran an older spec in Zandvoort to see if that readdressed any of the issues at all. The reality was we still had the same handling characteristics and issues, so that's given an awful lot of data for the guys, but a lot to get our heads around. We need to address it quickly because McLaren have made a significant step over the last few races. We were behind Ferrari and Mercedes in Monza as well." Paradoxically enough, Red Bull now have to pray that Ferrari and Mercedes will be making a huge step ahead, because that's the only way they'll be able to take points away from Norris in the Drivers' Championship. The battle in the Constructors' Championship is more or less lost because it's just 8 points between these two teams, but the balance of the RB20 seems so off that in the next two races in Baku and Singapore, Red Bull may find themselves in a much more difficult situation in defending both of these categories, because they can't always hope that Norris will bottle the starts and will find himself in such close racing situations with his teammate Piastri. Interestingly enough, Piastri and Leclerc are closer to Norris than he is to Verstappen, so this is a talk that should be discussed in some of the topics when it comes to whether or not Norris is ready to be the next world champion, with 8 races remaining and 3 sprint venues. But even Max's father Jos said that all of this could have been prevented now that the team has finally realised that their problems came to light and they didn't address them properly in the first half of the season when Max was winning races with ease. Therefore, blaming McLaren for something illegal doesn't make a lot of sense when you knew that there was a long-standing problem in your team that your primary driver has already pointed towards a couple of months prior to it swimming to the surface. Max Verstappen himself has had a very gloomy prediction about the remainder of 2024, and when talking about it in an interview, the Dutchman said, "Monza was just another dramatic race. Nothing was running. The car was not running at all. I didn't like the strategy at all, and the pit stop was absolutely crap. We had to drive with less power, so basically everything went wrong. Where we drove didn't matter anyway, but you still try to drive your best race. But with our 2 stoppers, that was definitely not the case. On both hard and medium tyres, we were too slow. The way things are going, we are not going to win any more races, but it is what it is." All of this points towards a scenario in which Max Verstappen and his team should focus more on the development of their car in the right direction rather than pointing the finger to the other teams. And even though it's not that great to have such a deficit compared to where they were in the first couple of races, minding your own business and digging into your own problems might be the only solution out of Red Bull's misery. Obviously, the team found themselves in a situation in which they are now the ones that have to change their car, which is something that Horner has told Wolff during a heated exchange between the team bosses in which Domenicali was also present. Mercedes did exactly that, but whether or not Red Bull will follow their footsteps, time will tell. There is also a huge threat for Verstappen's future in the team as well, because now that he is not comfortable with the car after holding Zoom meetings with the Milton Keynes engineers and telling everything that needs to be said about the car, there is nothing much more he could do at this point. With all this in mind, do you think that the time of Verstappen has come to an end with the Austrian team? And if so, which team do you think is the next destination for the 3-time world champion? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.